Well, Joel Rubin is a former US State Department aide on political, military and Middle East affairs. He joins me now live via Skype from Chevy Chase in Maryland. Good to have you with us. I mean, this may have started actually as a sort of a campaign slogan, which has now has the looks of becoming reality despite sort of the initial criticism from opponents. Are you surprised we've got to this point?
Well, it certainly has made a lot of progress from what President Trump initially had called out for in the campaign. But there's a background to this, and this is not a new idea. And it's also not very clear where the American Congress is, or certainly the American people on it. And so President Trump is pushing forward, but concerns that we'll begin to hear from Congress are about making this too much focused on military activity and not enough about the commercial applications, and not really clear on what the diplomatic strategy is to ensure that we don't militarize space.
We'll talk about the commercial side of it in a moment. For example, China and India have made no secret of their desire to venture and go forth where, if I can use the phrase, where no man has gone before. I mean, is that a factor for the US right now, where they've sort of mothballed the shuttle program? They're only really working with the International Space Station as their main priority?
Well, the American space program is a point of national pride in this country, clearly, and around the world. It's always been looked to as the leader. But we've had some shocks to the system lately, in particular with the moon, with the Chinese getting to the dark side of the moon. That was a real shock to the American system. So there are concerns that we are falling behind in the space race, although this exact Space Force is not necessarily designed for that, because NASA, the civilian space agency, is not part of this military option.
And of course, you know, let's talk about the commercial companies that have arisen in recent years. I mean, there is a reaction, is there not, to companies like Virgin Galactic and SpaceX offering not just sort of commercial potential, but also offering their services maybe to governments that the US wouldn't like to see take to the skies and take to space?
Yeah, I actually was in Huntsville, Alabama in December at the space facility there, and there's a lot of pride in NASA for its background in fundamental research into space exploration, in the sense that the private companies are piggybacking on that and really able to leverage the significant amount of taxpayer dollars that have gone into building an American space program. And there's concern about the rules of the road. What are they? How's this going to be governed? How are we going to ensure there's international cooperation, that space travel is something that is accessible? Real critical policy issues that we're barely beginning to grapple with here. As you point out, the military, the diplomatic applications, commercial, there's a lot going on right now, and there's not a clear American space policy, let alone a global one.
And of course, what we've got now is a timeline of events that President Trump would like to see for this Space Force. How long do you think it's going to take from the words we've heard from him to actually seeing it in operation?
Well, first it has to get through the American Congress, and there has to be money appropriated, and they have to begin to develop it. So this is years in the making, if it is to get to the point where we actually have a legitimate force within the U.S. military. So it will take time. And it's not at all clear that there's enough monetary support right now to support that kind of a venture. But there still is a deep concern about America's role in space and about protecting our assets in space. So certainly some form of application will take place, but this is years in the making.
We'll see how this pans out. For the moment, Joel Rubin, thanks very much for joining us from Maryland.
Thank you.